It said that betrayal doesn't start with a lie. It starts in silence. In the spaces between words, in the glances that look away too quickly. For Riley Carter, silence had become deafening. Steam rose from the crowded streets of downtown Los Angeles on a muggy summer evening as a sleek silver luxury SUV glided to a stop at the grand entrance of the Fairmont Century Plaza. A confident tech entrepreneur, Ethan Carter, stepped out arm in arm with a striking woman, a woman who was not his pregnant wife. Their quiet murmurs and stolen glances carried the weight of hidden truths. Nearby, behind a tall decorative ficus, a woman in a maid's uniform stood motionless. She was Riley, Ethan's wife, 6 months pregnant, and resolute in her mission to expose his deception. Within moments, she planned to slip into the couple's lavish hotel suite, plant a concealed camera, and ignite a chain of events that would unravel all their lives. Los Angeles pulsed with energy at night, a blur of headlights and humming city life. In a well-appointed apartment perched above the Wilshire corridor, Riley Carter paced her living room restlessly. At 29 and 6 months into her pregnancy, the extra weight tugged at her slight frame, her every step heavy with the burden of both the child and her gnawing suspicions. This baby was born from a marriage she had once thought unshakable. But now, her once joyful world felt as hollow as the echo of her bare feet on the polished hardwood floors. Her husband, Ethan Carter, had been vanishing more often lately, each time with vague reasons and dodged explanations. Ethan was a self-made millionaire, a former software developer whose rapid rise in the tech world had earned him headlines and admiration. Business magazines hailed him as a visionary, a disruptor, the Silicon Beach prodigy. He had invested in startup hubs across Santa Monica, spearheaded app developments in Venice, and was reportedly negotiating deals for a luxury tech campus near the Getty Center. His name seemed etched into every major development west of La Brea. And yet, for all his public charm and charisma, something had shifted at home. The intimacy between them had quietly withered. Riley couldn't name the moment it began, but Ethan's increasingly frequent late nights had grown impossible to ignore. He spoke of urgent tech demos, meetings with overseas partners, and confidential beta testing. His phone buzzed constantly, with soft-spoken exchanges he would abruptly cut short the second she walked into the room. The final crack came just a week ago, when a close friend confided that she had seen Ethan dining intimately at Orso, a celebrated Michelin-starred spot in Beverly Hills, with a woman who was clearly not Riley. "Are you absolutely sure?" Riley asked, her hands trembling as she clutched a steaming mug of peppermint tea. "I wish I wasn't," her friend replied softly, eyes cast down, "but I was only 2 tables away. They were holding hands, laughing, very, very close." The friend mentioned a name, Savannah Ellis, a popular influencer known for her extravagant fashion hauls and high-end lifestyle posts. Rumors swirled around her meteoric rise in LA's elite circles. Many claimed she was backed by influential, wealthy patrons. At first, Riley tried to shake it off as tabloid noise. She convinced herself Ethan was too smart, too calculated to jeopardize his image or their family, especially now, with their child on the way. But no matter how she tried to silence it, doubt had rooted itself deep within her. Night after night, she tried to broach the subject, gently at first, then more directly. But each time, Ethan parried her concerns with polished calm. "You're overthinking, Riley," he would say. "I'm killing myself trying to build a future for us. Can you just trust me?" And every time, she gave in, nodding, swallowing her fears, not wanting to seem paranoid, not wanting to alienate the man who once made her feel like the center of his world. But tonight, something had shifted. Something told her the truth was now unavoidable. A new charge on their joint credit card stood out, an outrageously priced designer handbag, one she had definitely not received. No special occasion, no surprise gift, nothing. Her pulse surged, her eyes stinging with unshed tears as the realization struck. She needed answers, no more guessing, no more hope. She had called Ethan earlier in the evening, straight to voicemail. Minutes later, a text arrived. "In a meeting. Back late. Don't wait up." The message offered no comfort, just fueled the fire inside her. Every minute that ticked by twisted the knife a little deeper. If there was another woman, if Ethan had betrayed her, she needed proof. She couldn't bear being blind anymore. As dawn approached, Riley sat hunched over her laptop, scrolling endlessly through social media. She found Savannah Ellis's Instagram. An endless stream of lavish outfits, posh hotel lounges, and exotic backdrops. Then something caught her eye. Savannah had just posted a new story, a boomerang from a luxury hotel suite with sweeping views of Century City's skyline. The wallpaper pattern, the gold trim, it was unmistakable. The Fairmont Century Plaza. The Fairmont Century Plaza, with its familiar swirling wallpaper designs and gilded trim, appeared exactly like the suite in Savannah's post. Riley's heartbeat quickened. Could it really be coincidence that Ethan claimed to be working late on the very night Savannah was flaunting a stay at the Fairmont? She couldn't ignore her instincts any longer. Her thoughts raced as she grabbed her phone and scrolled to a trusted name in her contacts. Laura Monroe, a close friend from college who had spent years working as a private investigator before pivoting to a career in corporate security. Riley called. Callie's voice came through, sleepy but tinged with concern. "It's almost 2 a.m. Is everything okay?" Riley swallowed the lump rising in her throat. Her voice trembled. "I need your help. I think Ethan is cheating on me. I need proof." Callie didn't hesitate, though her tone shifted instantly to serious. "I can help, but you have to be sure, Riley. Are you ready for what you might find?" Riley closed her eyes, tears already forming. "Yes, I have to know the truth, for me and for the baby. If he's really doing this, I need him to face the consequences." There was a pause on the line, then Callie exhaled. "Okay, come by tomorrow. I'll give you some discreet gear. Just be careful. Surveillance isn't without risk." "I understand," Riley whispered, nodding even though Callie couldn't see her. She hung up, the phone heavy in her hand, her chest tight with dread and resolve. Normally soft-spoken and trusting, Riley felt a fire within her now, one sparked by betrayal and fear. She hadn't known she had this much fight in her. That night, sleep came only in fits, plagued by cruel images of Ethan and Savannah laughing at her expense. Again and again she jolted awake, pillow damp with tears, hand instinctively shielding her belly. This child was coming into a world already breaking apart. The thought chilled her to the core. The next morning, Riley made her way to Callie's apartment in Westwood. The building was a simple beige complex tucked off a quieter street, far from the glitz and noise of downtown. Callie buzzed her in, greeting her in a ponytail and a faded hoodie. Her living room looked more like a tech command center, strewn with cords, gadgets, and hard cases from her PI days. "So," Callie said, placing a comforting hand on Riley's shoulder, "you have a plan?" Riley took a shaky breath. "If Ethan and Savannah are back at the Fairmont, I want to catch them. He's gotten predictable. I think I know when he'll check in again. If I catch him with Savannah, that'll be all the proof I need," Riley said firmly. Callie nodded. "I've got some hidden cams you can plant. They're disguised as everyday stuff. Pens, phone chargers, even air fresheners. You'll want something small enough to leave behind without raising suspicion." She pulled open a metal case, revealing a neat lineup of compact surveillance gear. One stood out. A black ballpoint pen with a hidden HD camera, motion-activated and capable of storing hours of footage. Callie explained how Riley could later connect it to her laptop to view the recordings. Riley's hand trembled slightly as she picked it up. "This should work, but how do I get inside their suite?" Callie pressed her lips together. "You said it's the Fairmont, right? The easiest way in is posing as housekeeping, but that's risky. One mistake and you could get thrown out. Or worse, Ethan could catch you." Riley closed her eyes for a moment, picturing the hotel's pristine hallways, the staff moving with precision, the feeling of being somewhere she didn't belong. But her voice was steady when she answered, "I'll figure it out. I need to know. I can't let him keep lying to me." Callie handed her the pen and a small audio device shaped like a car key fob. "This records up to 4 hours straight. Use it if you need backup audio. Just be careful. If anything feels off, call me immediately." Riley stepped forward and hugged her. "Thank you. I couldn't do this alone." Callie held her back with a sigh and a bittersweet smile. "You're stronger than you think. Just promise me you'll be safe." Riley tucked the devices into her purse and walked out, nerves and adrenaline colliding in her chest. She was crossing a line now, spying on her own husband. But the pain of betrayal had sharpened her sense of justice. If Ethan really was cheating, She needed undeniable evidence. 2 long days passed. Ethan came home late each night, offering only short texts about investor meetings or late board dinners. Meanwhile, Riley kept a close watch on Savannah's social feeds like a hawk. Then, on a rainy Friday evening, she spotted it. A short video Savannah posted showing the inside of an elegant elevator, gold-trimmed mirrors, plush maroon carpeting. Riley knew that elevator. It was the one at the Fairmont. The caption? Another night in paradise. That was it. Riley packed the pen camera and audio key fob into a small black crossbody bag and climbed into her car. Her fingers clenched the steering wheel as she pulled out of the driveway. Her growing baby bump made her movements more cautious, and each gentle flutter inside her felt like a silent cry for the truth. Outside, the glow of Los Angeles streetlights bounced off the wet pavement. As she neared the sleek entrance of the Fairmont Century Plaza, doormen ushered guests beneath large black umbrellas. Riley parked in a nearby garage and crossed the rain-slicked sidewalk, the downpour soaking through her coat. Her plan was clear, but dangerous. She would impersonate a member of the housekeeping staff, enter Ethan and Savannah's suite, and hide the pen camera in a discreet corner. Then she'd stay just long enough to capture something incriminating. Her pulse thundered as she walked into the lobby. The luxurious space glistened with polished marble floors, glittering chandeliers, and the low murmur of multilingual conversations. She headed straight toward a restroom tucked near the meeting rooms, where she quickly changed into a navy housekeeping uniform she had picked up from a janitorial supply outlet. The outfit was a knockoff, not perfect, but convincing enough for a hurried glance. Breathing hard, she checked her reflection. Her skin was pale, her eyes wide. The name tag pinned to her chest read, Maria, another purchased prop that now felt weighty given what she was about to do. Exiting the restroom, she pushed a prop housekeeping cart she'd borrowed from an old friend who used to work hotel gigs. With her gaze fixed low, she walked toward the employee elevators. A few actual staff glanced her way, briefly, but no one said a word. The Fairmont was big, always busy, and new faces weren't cause for alarm. Inside the elevator, she tried to regulate her breathing. According to their shared card account, Ethan frequently reserved Suite 2419, a lavish corner suite with sweeping views of Century City. She prayed it was the same one Savannah had shown in her recent post. If she was wrong, the entire plan could fall apart. She stepped out into a hallway lined with plush maroon carpeting, quietly scanning the doors until she found it. 2419. Pressing her ear to the door, she listened. Silence. If Ethan and Savannah were inside, they were either asleep or otherwise occupied. A chill ran down her spine. She retrieved a passkey borrowed from a former housekeeper friend who once did short-term contracts at the Fairmont. But there was no guarantee it would work, or that it wouldn't trigger an alert. Her hand shook as she slid the card into the electronic lock. A quiet click and a flash of green from the lock. The door yielded. Relief swept over Riley, though her next breath trembled with fear. She pushed the door open gently and stepped inside, easing it shut behind her. The suite was as extravagant as she had imagined. A spacious entryway led into a stunning living area, with floor-to-ceiling windows framing the glittering sprawl of Century City at night. The air held traces of floral perfume and something more indulgent, maybe roses and champagne. On a marble table sat a half-empty bottle of vintage sparkling wine. Cushions lay scattered across the luxurious couch, and an expensive handbag, clearly Savannah's, rested on a sleek velvet chair. Riley's chest tightened. Proof of Ethan's betrayal was all around her. But what she needed now was undeniable evidence. She moved quickly, scanning for a good place to hide the pen camera. Her eyes landed on a decorative vase perched atop a sideboard near the sitting area. Perfect. She slipped the device from her purse, activated it, and placed it behind the vase. The lens had a full view of the couch and most of the room. Next, she retrieved the audio key fob. She flipped the tiny switch and carefully tucked it beneath a chair cushion, silently praying it would stay concealed. Her plan was to return for it later, after it captured what she needed. Then a sound from the bedroom stopped her cold. Footsteps. Her pulse spiked as she frantically scanned the suite. The curtains, slightly parted. She darted behind them, pressing herself against the cool glass, The heavy fabric offered little protection, but it was all she had. She held her breath. The bedroom door creaked open. A second later, the lights in the living room came on. She heard the soft steps on thick carpet and then a voice, familiar, crushing. "Where's my phone?" Ethan muttered. "I swear I left it out here somewhere." Then came another voice, teasing, warm. "Savannah, you're always losing something," she said with a low chuckle. "Don't take too long. We've got the whole night ahead of us." Riley shut her eyes tight. Her chest ached. Just feet away, her husband stood with another woman. The intimacy in their voices, once reserved only for her, was like a knife to the heart. She heard the faint rustle of fabric, and every second that passed made it harder to stay still. Then Ethan's voice again, exasperated. A sigh. "It's not here. Must have left it in the car," Ethan said, his voice closer now, just beyond the door. "I'll go grab it." Savannah responded with a soft hum, barely interested. "All right, but don't take long. I was just getting in the mood." Ethan let out a quiet laugh, and Riley felt like her chest might cave in. She heard the suite door open, then close. Silence returned, except for her own racing heartbeat. Moments later, Savannah's phone buzzed. She murmured something under her breath, probably responding to a call or a message, and wandered back into the bedroom. Riley dared a peek from behind the curtains. The living room was empty, for now. She had seconds before Savannah returned. Or a real housekeeper passed by. Summoning every ounce of nerve, Riley slipped from her hiding place, pulled the suite door open, and stepped into the hallway. Pushing the cart, she walked swiftly toward the service elevator, never once looking back. By the time she reached the staff bathroom, her whole body was trembling. She yanked off the uniform, stuffed it into a large duffel bag, and made her way out of the hotel. Being that close to Ethan, hearing his voice, hearing him laugh, had shaken her more than she expected, but she had done it. The camera and the audio recorder were in place. Now she just had to wait. Back in her car, Riley pulled onto a quiet side street, letting herself breathe. Rain tapped the windshield under the glow of streetlights. She could feel her baby moving, almost as if sensing her turmoil. Gently, she placed her hand on her stomach and whispered, "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I wish this wasn't how it had to be." She thought about driving home, but she couldn't unwind. Not while crucial evidence was being captured just floors above in the Fairmont. Instead, she called Callie. "I did it," she whispered into the phone. "The camera's set, so is the audio recorder." Callie gave a low whistle. "That was brave, but risky. Are you sure no one saw you?" "As sure as I can be," Riley replied, voice shaking. "Ethan almost caught me. He came in looking for his phone. I had to hide behind the curtains." Callie's sharp intake of breath said it all. "Riley, be careful. If anything had gone wrong." "I know," Riley cut in, her throat tightening with tears. "But it's done now. I'll go back for the footage tomorrow. Once they're gone, I can't rest until I have proof." Callie's tone softened. "Okay, just promise me you'll stay safe. Stress isn't good for you or the baby." Riley ended the call, her mind spinning. She found a nearby diner and slipped inside, ordering a decaf coffee and nursing it slowly. Time dragged. She tried to distract herself with an old newspaper and the soft clatter of late-night customers, but nothing could calm the storm inside her. The rush of emotions crashing in waves. Heartbreak, rage, disbelief, and strangely, a sense of empowerment. She was finally facing the truth. Shortly after dawn, Riley returned to her penthouse. Ethan was nowhere to be seen. Not that she expected him to be. She tiptoed into the master bedroom, collapsed onto the edge of the bed, and stared at the empty space beside her. The space that once radiated love. Memory after memory played in her mind. Late-night movie binges, lazy Sunday brunches in pajamas, the morning he surprised her with a ring and asked her to share a future. She hated that those once precious images now felt poisoned by betrayal. At some point, she must have drifted off. When she awoke, sunlight was streaming through the tall windows, and her phone buzzed noisily on the nightstand. Her eyes burned from the restless night. A text from Ethan lit up the screen. "Busy day. Meetings all afternoon. Home late. Take care of yourself." Rage surged. Was this his idea of a cover story? Did he really think she would just go on, blind and silent? She threw off the covers, took a long shower, and steeled herself for what came next, retrieving the surveillance devices from the Fairmont. Part of her dreaded what the footage might reveal. But another part felt strangely relieved. One way or another, she would finally know. That afternoon, Riley entered the Fairmont Century Plaza once more. Dressed in the same makeshift housekeeping uniform and pushing the same borrowed cart, she moved with purpose. As long as no one questioned her, she'd blend in. But any confrontation would end everything. Taking a deep breath, she reached Suite T419. She pressed her ear to the door. Silence. No signs of Ethan or Savannah. Maybe they'd already checked out or had simply stepped out. Slowly, she slid the pass key into the lock. The green light blinked. The door clicked open. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown as she slipped inside, silently pleading for the room to be empty. It was. She exhaled, her relief nearly staggering. The bed had been made, suggesting housekeeping had already cleaned the suite. Panic shot through her. What if someone had found the devices? She rushed to the sideboard. The decorative vase was still there, but the pen camera was gone. A wave of dread seized her until she spotted it. The device had simply slipped behind the vase onto a lower ledge, almost completely hidden. She scooped it up, hands trembling. Next, she lifted the seat cushion on the velvet chair. The audio fob was still nestled there. Its small indicator light. The light on the recorder was off, normal once the battery ran out. Riley tucked both devices into her bag. Mission complete. She scanned the suite one last time to make sure she hadn't left anything behind. Satisfied, she exited swiftly, returning the borrowed cart and uniform to the staff bathroom before leaving the hotel altogether. Back in the safety of her car, she dropped her head to the steering wheel, forehead resting against the leather. Relief washed over her, but so did apprehension. Now came the next step. Watching and listening to what the devices had captured. A storm of emotions churned inside her, fear of what she'd see, a desperate need for closure, and a deep, simmering anger that this had even been necessary. She couldn't bear to face the footage alone in the penthouse she still shared with Ethan. Instead, she headed to Callie's, texting a short message to let her know she was on the way. Callie's quiet brownstone offered a pocket of calm. When Riley arrived, she was ushered into a converted bedroom office filled with monitors, cables, and a laptop already booting up. "Let's do this," Callie said softly, connecting the pen camera. Riley sat at the edge of a scuffed leather chair, her pulse pounding in her ears as the video began. The first few minutes were uneventful, an empty room. Then Ethan and Savannah appeared, holding hands and speaking softly. Riley's stomach twisted. They popped open a bottle of champagne, clinking glasses. She couldn't make out every word, but then came Ethan's voice, painfully clear. "To our future, and finally being free of all that baggage." He smiled at Savannah. Riley felt her throat close. They sank into the couch together, Ethan wrapping his arm around her. The conversation drifted from business opportunities to mocking remarks about Riley, how she was too emotional, always needing something. Then Savannah asked, "When are you going to tell her it's over?" Ethan shrugged. "Soon. Let her have the baby. Then we'll see." Tears streaked down Riley's cheeks. Callie paused the footage, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Riley, I'm so sorry. You shouldn't have to watch this." But Riley shook her head, voice firm despite the tears. "No, let it play. I need to see everything." They watched more scenes, laughing, kissing, intimate gestures, each second more agonizing than the last. It wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate, repeated, calculated. Then came the audio file from the key fob. The sound was faint but clear enough. Savannah boasted about using Ethan to score sponsorship deals and lock in a high-profile modeling contract. Ethan, in turn, bragged about a new luxury real estate project near the Getty that would make him disgustingly rich. "She'll get her share, sure," he said, laughing. "But the real fun is what I'll have with you." Riley's jaw clenched as she removed her glasses and wiped at her tears. Callie paused the audio again, letting Riley breathe. The entire review had taken less than 2 hours, but it felt like a lifetime. Every second had been a blow to the chest, an endless unraveling of a life Riley thought she understood. When the final clip ended, Riley sat motionless, eyes fixed on the dark screen. The silence in the room felt suffocating. Callie gently closed the laptop. "You have more than enough," she said softly. "What's your next move?" Riley exhaled slowly, bitterness darkening her expression. "I could confront him face to face, or I could go straight to court. But there's something else. He's scheduled to host a gala in 2 weeks, she continued. It's for the grand opening of his newest development in Century City. Everyone will be there. Investors, press, celebrities. He's been bragging about how it'll cement his status as the untouchable face of LA real estate. Callie's eyes widened. You're thinking about going public? Riley hesitated. I'm not someone who seeks revenge, but he's shown me no decency. He's not just cheating, he's humiliating me. And once the baby's here, he plans to throw me away. I need to make sure he doesn't walk away from this clean. Callie nodded, her voice firm. If you're set on this, I'll help, but you need to be smart. Going public could get messy. Riley's gaze sharpened. Messy or not, I won't let him get away with it. That night, after leaving Callie's apartment, Riley drove aimlessly for a while. The emotional toll of what she had just seen pressing down like a weight on her chest. Halfway home, a sudden sharp cramp twisted through her abdomen. She pulled over, gripping the steering wheel as the pain pulsed again. Her hands shook as she reached for her phone. At the hospital, the nurses were calm but swift. After a round of tests and monitoring, a doctor finally entered the room. You're okay, he said gently, but you're showing signs of early contractions. Stress is likely the trigger. You need to rest. Any more tension like this could put you at risk for preterm labor. Riley nodded, but her thoughts were far from rest. She placed her hand over her belly, feeling the flutter of life inside her. As she sat alone in the quiet of the hospital room, a war brewed inside her, between the instinct to protect her child and the growing fire to defend herself. The next morning, despite the doctor's warning, she called Callie. I'm moving forward, she said quietly. I know what the risks are, but I can't walk away from this. Not now. Over the next 2 weeks, Riley moved with quiet intensity. She discreetly retained a divorce attorney and began legal proceedings behind Ethan's back. Her lawyer urged her to gather financial records, proof of the affair, and any documents showing potential liability in his business dealings. With Callie's help, she obtained copies of questionable bank activity, large transfers to offshore accounts, likely tied to Savannah or set aside in preparation for leaving Riley behind. Meanwhile, Ethan kept his routine, coming home late with stories about investors from out of town or urgent site visits. He barely acknowledged Riley's pregnancy, except for the occasional half-hearted gesture, placing a hand on her belly, murmuring something that felt more like guilt than affection. It made her skin crawl. She pretended not to notice, played the part of the trusting wife. Never gave him a reason to think she knew anything. All the while, the gala loomed larger on the city's radar. Set to take place at a newly restored Art Deco venue in downtown Los Angeles, it was shaping up to be one of the year's most glamorous real estate events. Ethan had even posed with Riley for promotional shots weeks earlier, which now graced real estate blogs and high-end marketing spreads. Despite his secret life, he clung to the image of a loving husband expecting his first child, a perfect narrative to charm potential investors. Savannah was expected to attend too, though her name wasn't listed anywhere. Savannah had been teasing something huge on her Instagram, hinting at a major reveal at the upcoming event. Riley suspected she planned to go public with the affair, or maybe pull off some dramatic gesture to mark her place beside Ethan. But Savannah didn't realize that Riley had already made her move. The real drama was being staged by the wife Ethan had tried to erase. The night of the gala arrived. The venue glowed under sweeping spotlights as luxury vehicles rolled up to the red carpet. Los Angeles elite filed into the grand hall. Investors, influencers, celebrities, and local power players. Flashes from cameras burst in every direction as journalists gathered sound bites for both tabloid gossip and high-stakes business headlines. Waitstaff glided through the crowd with trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres, while soft piano music played in the background. Riley arrived fashionably late, stepping out of a sleek black sedan in a form-fitting midnight blue maternity gown. She paused on the carpet, letting photographers capture her poised expression, radiant but unmistakably resolute. If Ethan was already inside, she wanted her entrance to be unforgettable. Heads turned. The glowing pregnant wife of tech magnate Ethan Carter walked with grace, every detail of her appearance radiating both elegance and subtle defiance. Her heart pounded as she crossed the ornate foyer. The space shimmered with 1920s Art Deco glamour, vaulted ceilings, golden filigree, and polished marble underfoot. Voices filled the room in a melodic mix of small talk and laughter. Near the stage stood Ethan, looking polished in a tailored tuxedo, deep in conversation with a circle of high-profile investors. Just a few steps away, Savannah stood in a bold red designer gown, striking and unmistakable. Her eyes sparkled as she worked the room, flirtatious and calculated. Riley caught them exchanging glances, silent signals of something hidden. Then Ethan spotted her. His smile flickered. He quickly excused himself and crossed the room. "You made it," he said, feigning warmth as he leaned in to kiss her cheek. Riley let him, even as her stomach turned. From the corner of her eye, she saw Savannah watching, a smirk tugging at her lips. "Of course I came," Riley said smoothly, steadying her voice. "I wouldn't miss your big night." "You look incredible," he said, touching her belly lightly. "How are you feeling?" She smiled tightly. "Ready for a reveal." Confusion flickered in his eyes. "A reveal?" She simply nodded, then slipped away to greet other guests. Across the room, Callie stood near the AV booth, barely noticeable to the mingling crowd. Riley caught her eye. They exchanged a slight nod. Everything was in place. The lights dimmed. The room hushed. Ethan took the stage, a towering LED screen glowing behind him, with renderings of his new luxury development in Century City. Ethan radiated confidence, his arms stretched wide, his voice commanding through the mic. "Good evening, everyone. I can't begin to express how excited I am to unveil this monumental project, a development that will redefine the Century City skyline and establish a new benchmark for luxury living in Los Angeles. Tonight, we are part of something historic." Riley stood just out of sight, her heart pounding against her ribs. Near the front row, Savannah crossed her arms, her lips curled in satisfaction. She looked every bit the supportive partner, ready to soak in Ethan's glory. The crowd clapped enthusiastically, unaware that the real show was just beginning. The scorned wife waited, holding the truth like a loaded weapon. Ethan moved into the closing segment of his speech. "This isn't just about real estate," he said. "It's about legacy, about building a future our children will inherit and be proud of." He gave a meaningful glance toward Riley, or maybe her prominent baby bump. Polite applause echoed through the room. That was her moment. Riley stepped onto the stage and approached the second mic, left waiting on a sleek stand. Ethan's expression cracked, confusion creeping across his face. Murmurs stirred in the crowd. Savannah's posture shifted, uneasy now, her smile fading. "Ethan," Riley said, her voice cutting through the hush, "I want to personally congratulate you on this stunning launch. But since you brought up legacy, I think it's time everyone here saw who you really are." Her pulse roared in her ears, but her tone was steady. Ethan's jaw clenched. A nervous laugh slipped out. "Riley, sweetheart, this isn't the time or place." "I disagree," she replied calmly. "This is exactly the time, and this is exactly the place. In front of every investor, every friend, every member of the media, to reveal the truth." She glanced at Callie. Right on cue, the massive LED screen behind them flickered. The sleek renderings vanished. In their place, footage from inside the Fairmont suite. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. Before anyone could speak, the speakers crackled, and Ethan's voice played, crystal clear. "Let her have the baby. Then we'll see." The audio played over footage of Ethan and Savannah locked in an embrace, champagne in hand, trading cruel remarks about Riley. The room erupted. Gasps, cries, disbelief. Ethan spun toward the AV booth, panic etched across his face. "Shut it down," he shouted, storming toward the back. But Callie had locked the system into a timed loop. The screen continued to play the damning evidence. 1 full minute of betrayal, deception, and mockery for all to see. Flashbulbs erupted as reporters scrambled to document the scandal. Savannah turned ghostly pale. She tried to duck out, but photographers swarmed her, hurling questions. Ethan's investors and allies stood in stunned silence. A few cursed under their breath. Some turned on their heels and stormed toward the exits. Others pulled out their phones and started recording the spectacle. When the footage finally ended, Riley set the microphone down. Her eyes burned with tears, not from sorrow, but from justice. She turned and stepped off the stage, weaving through the crowd. Murmurs followed her. Admiration, pity, astonishment. Ethan jumped down from the platform, chasing after her. "Riley, wait!" She stopped and turned to face him. "No, Ethan," she said, voice steady. "I won't wait. Not anymore." Savannah, still cornered by press, shouted frantically, "She set us up. She planned this. This is insane." But no one was listening. She'd flaunted her affair too publicly. Now the fallout was hers to bear. Security moved in, pushing back the cameras and reporters. Callie appeared beside Riley, wrapping her in a hug before escorting her out. The car doors closed, muffling the chaos behind them. As they pulled away, Riley looked back one last time. She felt her chest rise and fall, and for the first time in a long time, it wasn't from fear or sadness. It was release. Her world had changed in a single night. Michael's empire had been cracked wide open, his polished image dragged through scandal. And Riley? She felt lighter, free. The next morning, headlines exploded. Every major newspaper and celebrity blog plastered Ethan's name across their front pages. Social media was a firestorm. Videos from the gala circulated endlessly. Hashtags like Carter Collapse and Fairmont Expose trended for days. Investors began pulling out of Ethan's Century City project, wary of entrusting their funds to a man whose personal integrity had shattered so publicly. Stock in his publicly traded development firm took a sharp dive. Riley, meanwhile, retained additional legal counsel, handling both her divorce and the tidal wave of media attention. Overnight, she had gone from betrayed wife to public powerhouse. Riley became a figure of public sympathy, the poised, pregnant wife who exposed her millionaire husband's betrayal in front of the entire city. Offers for exclusive interviews flooded in from major talk shows and glossy magazines, but she declined them all. She wasn't interested in profiting from her pain. Her only priority was protecting herself and her unborn child from further chaos. Ethan called her over and over, leaving voicemails that swung wildly, from tearful apologies to angry outbursts to desperate pleas. He begged to meet, to talk, to explain. Riley refused every attempt. Her responses came only through her legal team. In the days that followed, rumors spread that Ethan's Century City expansion had been shelved. No investor wanted their name attached to a scandal-soaked developer. In quiet boardrooms and late-night calls, business insiders whispered about potential lawsuits, not just from shareholders, but from partners now questioning his financial ethics. Then came a turn Riley hadn't expected. An internal audit of Ethan's real estate firm revealed a trail of suspicious transactions, unexplained wire transfers, and misappropriated funds that it seemed had funded Savannah's lavish lifestyle. Regulatory agencies took interest. What started as gossip turned into a formal investigation. The foundation of Ethan's empire began to tremble. Savannah didn't escape unscathed either. Several brands dropped her overnight. Her follower count nosedived as the public rebranded her from glamorous influencer to opportunist mistress. She released a tearful video on YouTube, claiming she had been misled, that she never meant to hurt anyone. The reaction? Mockery, scorn. Viewers pointed to her smug demeanor in the leaked hotel footage as proof she knew exactly what she was doing. Riley watched it all unfold from a distance. There was no joy in seeing Ethan fall, no pride in the scandal becoming public record. After all, their child would grow up and learn the truth one day. But she had no regrets. She had given Ethan every chance to be honest, and at every turn he'd chosen lies. One evening, as she sat alone in the penthouse she had already begun packing up, her phone buzzed. "Ethan." Without thinking, she answered. Her voice was clipped. "Riley." "Please," he said, sounding worn and hollow. "I'm so sorry. I don't even know where to begin." She didn't let him finish. "You humiliated me, lied to me, planned to abandon me. There's no apology in the world that can fix that." His voice broke on the other end. "I never wanted it to go this far. I love you." Riley's grip tightened around the phone. "Stop," she said, voice shaking, eyes stinging with unshed tears. "Love doesn't look like what you did to me. Don't use that word, not now." And she hung up. Her hands trembled, but her heart stayed firm. In that moment, she understood something crucial. While she had every right to be furious, to feel betrayed, she no longer wanted to be defined by vengeance. She was carrying a child, a future. And she wanted that child to grow up surrounded not by bitterness, but by peace. In the weeks that followed, Riley took deliberate steps to rebuild. She moved out of the opulent penthouse and into a modest, sun-filled apartment on the west side of LA, manageable, cozy, and hers. She hired a designer to help craft a new space, warm colors, soft textures, a nursery in pale yellows and mint greens. Ironically, part of the redecorating was financed by the initial support Ethan's lawyers had offered, an early installment of what would eventually become a broader settlement. The divorce proceedings moved forward quickly. With airtight evidence of Ethan's infidelity, Riley's legal team secured strong ground. They pushed for fair alimony, full custody considerations, and an equitable share of Ethan's assets, enough to guarantee security for her and the baby. Ethan's lawyers, hoping to contain the media storm, tried to negotiate a quiet resolution. But Riley didn't budge. She wasn't out for blood, but she would not be shortchanged. Not after what he'd done. Outside the courtroom, the scandal showed no signs of fading. Reports surfaced that several investors had filed independent lawsuits against Ethan, accusing him of fraud and breach of fiduciary duty. He tried to spin the fallout as a private mistake that had nothing to do with his professional record, but the damage was done. The board of his company voted to place him on indefinite leave. His title was stripped, his authority dissolved. Savannah, meanwhile, disappeared from the LA scene. Her social media presence withered. Attempts at a comeback were met with cold silence. A half-hearted Instagram post claimed she was focusing on healing and mental clarity, but the public had already moved on to fresher, cleaner faces. Riley spent her days preparing for the baby's arrival. She took prenatal classes. She found peace in little rituals, folding baby clothes, choosing lullabies, painting the nursery. Callie remained her rock. And slowly she rekindled friendships lost during the years of Ethan's rise. Their kindness and steady presence reminded Riley what real connection felt like: honesty, loyalty, compassion. One late afternoon, she sat on her new couch flipping through baby name books. The little one inside her gave a soft kick, like encouragement. She smiled, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. The heartbreak hadn't vanished, but in its place, something new had taken root. Hope. As Riley approached the final stretch of her pregnancy, she immersed herself in preparing for motherhood. She hosted a small, intimate baby shower in her newly decorated apartment, inviting only a handful of close friends. They brought plush animals, handmade blankets, and wishes whispered over mugs of tea. Callie was there too, beaming with pride. There was no press, no glitter, no showmanship, just warmth. And for Riley, it felt deeply real. The legal wrangling continued in the background, but Riley held her composure. She saw Ethan only when necessary, during terse depositions or family court appearances. He looked worn down, thinner than she remembered. The scandal had carved stress into every line of his face. Occasionally, he tried to ask about the baby, about seeing the nursery, attending appointments. Riley kept her boundaries firm. She wasn't sure if his concern was authentic or part of a redemption arc advised by his lawyers. Eventually, she heard whispers that Ethan had begun therapy, on the advice of his publicist, not a spiritual awakening. She didn't waste energy speculating. She was done being moved by his remorse. Then, on a crisp October evening, it happened. Riley woke with sharp contractions. She called Callie, who rushed her to the hospital. The night passed in waves: pain, adrenaline, focus. By dawn, Riley held her son in her arms, a baby boy. She named him Elijah. The moment he let out his first cry, every jagged edge in her heart softened. Tears streamed down her face as she cradled him against her chest. "I'll always protect you," she whispered. Callie, standing nearby, snapped a few discreet photos. Riley, glowing with exhausted joy, Elijah swaddled close. News of the birth reached Ethan. He tried to come to the hospital. Riley allowed a brief visit, with Callie present, watching. He entered quietly, holding a bouquet of yellow roses. His eyes shimmered with emotion, sorrow, awe, something complicated and unspeakable. For a moment, the world stilled as he gazed at his son for the first time. "He's beautiful," Ethan murmured, voice cracking. Riley said nothing, her eyes fixed on Elijah. Riley allowed Ethan a few quiet minutes to hold the baby. In that instant, watching his trembling arms cradle their son, she saw a man stripped of ego. His eyes shimmered with unspeakable regret. A flicker of sympathy passed through her. But it wasn't enough to rewrite the past. Elijah cooed softly, blissfully unaware of the heavy air around him. When Ethan tried to speak, Riley simply shook her head. The moment was over. A nurse stepped in, gently reminding Ethan that Riley needed rest. He nodded, lingering for one last look before stepping out. Weeks became months. Riley embraced motherhood with her entire being. savoring each smile, every tiny yawn, every new sound Elijah made. She built a quiet, nurturing life with the support of Callie and a few steadfast friends. Her home was small, but it pulsed with peace, something she hadn't known in years. The divorce was finalized. The settlement ensured Elijah's needs would be met for years to come. Ethan also established a trust in his son's name, a small gesture that hinted at remorse, though far too late. Meanwhile, Ethan's legal troubles multiplied. Corporate lawsuits bled him dry. He was forced to liquidate several assets, including the penthouse he once shared with Riley. The man, once hailed as a visionary developer, was watching his empire crumble, brick by brick. Ethan filed for visitation, citing his paternal rights. After long consultations with her attorney, Riley agreed to limited, supervised visits until the courts made a formal ruling. During those brief visits, Ethan looked haggard and humbled. He read picture books to Elijah, rocked him gently, tried in quiet ways to be a father. Riley observed from a distance, her heart a tangled knot of grief, anger, and fierce protectiveness. Then, one gray morning, another blow landed. New evidence surfaced: shell companies, hidden transfers, extravagant gifts bought with laundered money. The indictment came swiftly: fraud and embezzlement. His legal team struck a plea deal, sparing him prison time, but the fines were devastating. The press had a field day. The golden boy of West Coast real estate, a cautionary tale. Riley read the headlines with mixed feelings. No triumph, only a heavy recognition of what could have been. Ethan had made his choices. She had made hers. Over time, as Elijah grew, Riley began to breathe more freely. Her apartment overflowed with soft light, playful energy, and the comforting sounds of bedtime lullabies. She picked up freelance work again, designing warm, family-friendly interiors that echoed the safety she'd built for her son. The scandal had made her a familiar name, but it was her work and resilience that earned quiet respect. She declined interviews and talk show invitations, letting her quiet strength and steady work speak louder than sensational headlines. Callie remained her unwavering confidant. Over coffee one sunny afternoon, Callie looked across the table and said, "You know, I've seen plenty of betrayal in my line of work, but the way you handled yours? That took courage." Riley gave a soft smile, reflecting on everything she had weathered. "I guess I learned that sometimes. You have to speak your truth in the loudest way possible, because if you don't, the world will bury you beneath its lies." They both looked down at Elijah, who was gnawing happily on a soft toy, his eyes full of wonder at the world around him. In that quiet moment, Riley felt something she hadn't in a long time: peace. She had survived betrayal, public shame, and profound heartbreak. And now she was building something better. The tangled web Ethan had spun had unraveled spectacularly. His fall was public, inevitable. But out of that wreckage, Riley had found something invaluable. All right, wonderful friends, if you're still here, right now, at this very moment, there's probably something in this story that touched your heart. Maybe it stirred a memory. Maybe it cracked open something you've been carrying in silence. And now I invite you to pause with me, not to judge, not to fix, but simply to see. Let's view Riley's journey not as one of revenge, but of reclamation. She didn't act out of hate. She didn't expose her husband for headlines. She chose truth over illusion. She fought not just for herself, but for the innocent child she carried. In a world that often applauds silence over confrontation, she dared to be loud in the name of dignity. As the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Riley chose that path. She didn't destroy Ethan. He did that all on his own. She simply illuminated what was hidden. In our own lives, how often do we swallow pain, hoping it fades? How often do we accept less, just to keep the peace? Riley's story teaches us that peace born from avoidance isn't real peace at all. True healing demands confrontation, not with fists, but with truth. It demands that we stop waiting for someone else to save us, and instead take the brave first step toward reclaiming ourselves. So if this story stirred something in you, if you felt her heartbreak or her courage echo in your own chest, share it. Like this video, send it to someone who might need it, and subscribe for more stories that don't just entertain, but help us see ourselves more clearly. This isn't about drama, it's about transformation. And we're walking that path together.